Welcome to African Hour. This is a special tribute to His Royal Highness King Angwafo of Mankon, Cameroon in Central Africa, who also is an honorary member of the Lowell City Council. The king visited Lowell twice, first in May 2002 and in February 2007. At his first visit, Mayor Rita and the Lowell City Council welcomed him at the City Hall and made him an honorary city councilor and an honorary member of the Lowell community. The king fell in love, and he came back again the second time and addressed the city council. I should say that King Angwafo III is the first traditional African ruler to have addressed the city council in Lowell and became the honorary member. So with this interview, it's on the occasion celebrating, paying a tribute to the life of this benevolent and dynamic ruler who took Africa across the Atlantic to the America. There's no one else that knows more about King Angwafo III's visit here in Lowell than our own Lowellian, Dr. Mehmed Ali, whose work within the African community and the immigrant community in Lowell is limitless. Dr. Ali, you are welcome on African Hour, and could you say something about yourself before we delve into you talking about King Angwafo III, whom you met?
Sure, and thank you, Fru, for having me on as a guest. I don't know how many years African Hour has been on the air, but I've been trying to get an interview to appear on such an exclusive show, and I finally had this opportunity. So, no, but just kidding aside, real honor to join you today from Montgomery, Alabama. But my brain and body are here. My heart is somewhere along the Merrimack and Concord rivers, and I miss everyone back home, and it's a pleasure to see you even thousands of miles away. So yes, I had the fortune to be invited when I was a postman, actually, in Lowell, to a series of meetings, which turned into sort of a committee to put together by Lowell National Historical Park, Boston National Historical Park, and the National Parks and Conservation Association. I believe that was the name of the organization. I think it's changed its name, but a nonprofit group that was supporting all national parks all across the nation. The interest of this group coming together, though, was to help diversify the stories of the national park. And I think we started meeting either in 98 or 99. And we had some meetings in Lowell, meetings in Boston. We did a retreat on Martha's Vineyard. We went to visit other parks, New Bedford, and it was a great collaboration. And from that point, there was a real desire and push to ensure that peoples of color, different levels of diversity would be highlighted throughout the park. From that work, I was again fortunate enough to be hired by the Lowell National Historical Park in 2001 to be the first director of the Patrick J. Mogan Cultural Center on French Street next to Boarding House Park, right near the Boot Mills complex. And That was a great partnership between the national park and the University of Massachusetts Lowell, who provided a lot of the programmatic funds. And from there, we were able to do lots of exhibits, historical research projects, oral history initiatives, folk life and folkways projects, um, uh, lectures. We did some films. We created websites. So there was a multitude of stories. Now, we did loads of just Lowell history, all focused on Lowell history and culture. And we did exhibits for the Irish community and the French Canadians, and a host of others, Syrians and Lebanese. But then we also helped propel really at a large level some of the first diversity stories that had been done. Martha Mayo, the librarian at the Center for Lowell History, had done some great exhibits on the African American history of Lowell. And that was sort of it. And she was a real pioneer, but we needed to do more. And so through this partnership, we were able to do other exhibits. Again, we did exhibits on African Americans in Lowell. We did exhibits on Puerto Rican community of Lowell, the Lao community. We did several Cambodian art initiatives. We invited the Encore Dance Troupe to have their headquarters at the Mogan Culture Center. So we really broadened and dove deep into the rich history that includes so many diverse communities. So along with that, we ended up co-sponsoring special events and provided logistical and funding and other resources for things like the Puerto Rican Festival and the Southeast Asian Water Festival, and also the African Festival out at the Vandenberg Esplanade. And that was a real engaging enterprise. It was so interesting to see folks from Nigeria and Cameroon and Kenya and Zimbabwe and Uganda and all sorts of other nations coming together, showing their pride, showing their culture to each other and to the larger mainstream communities in Lowell and beyond. So that was a real eye-opener and an exciting time to get those diverse stories, diverse cultures out there. There's been a large push, for diversity and other things since the unfortunate killing of George Floyd. And I've seen a lot of people getting invested in diversity issues for really the first time. Lowell has been doing diversity for quite a long time. And folks like yourself, the Cameroonian organization, Kamola, and all sorts of other groups are pioneers at making sure that everyone feels welcome, everyone can share their story, and share the goodness that comes by merging cultures, having that mosaic, having that goulash, that cultural goulash that comes naturally with the intermingling of people. So that's sort of a background from the national park. I became a diplomat. I was in Iraq and Afghanistan working for the State Department and USAID for 5 years. Came back. I was, again, very fortunate to work at UMass Lowell for a couple of years at the library. And then I've been down here in Montgomery, Alabama, working for Air University since 2018. So that's sort of a recap of my career, but also some of the history of diversity, which leads to great visits from international leaders, such as King Angwafo. And so anyways, happy to answer any questions or tell any stories.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ali, and you are really my brother. We've known each other since 2001, and it was during your work within bringing the communities together that we crossed paths, and since then we've just been like hand and gloves. So thank you very much. You've been a very, very, I wouldn't say a friend, but a brother. And your work has also encouraged the immigrant and particularly the Africans and the Cameroonians as well. And what you've done to the immigrant community is for us to bring our own story from our own perspective as Africans. When you help us launch the African Festival, the the um, the theme was a taste of Africa. We brought Africa through us to share it to the Lowellians because that aspect of us makes it real that he who tells his story tells the true story. But if you allow someone tell your story, you will always glorify the storyteller. So in that aspect, I share and I thank you very much. And when King Angwafo the third, who's my uncle, came here, you were always generous when I approached you. You welcomed him at the Modern Cultural Center and took a tour. And for him to be the first traditional African ruler, literate traditional African ruler, I say literate because he speaks about 10 languages, African languages, and he speaks French and English. And he mesmerized the people at the city hall when he addressed them. They thought he was going to speak through an interpreter, but he spoke impeccable English to the astonishment and the admiration of everybody. So, sir, for what you've done to the African community and the immigrant community, thank you so very much. This is an opportunity I have been looking for. So, you as one of the people who actually welcome King Angwafo the third of Mancon. For our viewers and audience, this is a tribute to King Angwafo, who ruled Mancon for 63 years and lived a very accomplished life for 97 years. So by our Mancon culture, we don't say the king is has passed on. We say the king is missing. So he got missing on May 21st, 2022, the same day that he was born, May 21st, 1925. So could you share your memories of actually welcoming, I don't know, was that the first traditional African leader that you have come in close to and talked to?
Actually not, because I had the opportunity in 2000 and 2001 to work on a project with, it was a partnership between the University of Connecticut and the African National Congress to do an oral history initiative. So as you know, the African National Congress was a banned organization. They were illegal. They had to hide. They had to move operations in other countries. They were, most of the leadership was arrested and incarcerated on Robben Island and that. So because they had to operate in most of their existence during the apartheid era, they had to operate as a secret organization. They didn't keep a lot of written documents, right? Because they didn't want, if somebody was arrested with written documents, then it would, add evidence to punish them, incarcerate them, implicate others, etc. So much of the history was really embodied in human memory, which again goes back to how traditional African cultures, hand down traditions and stories and genealogies, etc. So we went over as a small team to work with a group of South African folks to sort of share ideas and come up with ways to improve their skills and experiences in conducting oral history interviews, archival outreach, etc. And most of these documentations from this project were housed at the University of Connecticut and the University of Fort Hare. So I had the opportunity to partner up with local South Africans, and we did a number of interviews with folks like Govan Mbeki and Walter Sisulu and some other famous and not so famous individuals. But it included several traditional leaders as well from different groups. I forget if there was, the Zulus weren't really part of the ANC, but there was some participants, and through those travels, which I was in country for about 10 months, we just met a host of individuals, and it was a real eye opener for me. I've done quite a bit of international travel, but each corner of the planet is something special and something unique in that. But it was a great honor to meet King Angwafo, and I wanted to, Fru, go ahead.
Yeah, before you delve in, I have a video here that could maybe refresh your memory and of the king.
You've ever read a book called by Frantz Fanon? By Frantz Fanon. He talks about the colonization of the land. It's when the French occupied Algeria.
English, they had the intention of doing something. But the French, with their own principles of colonization, they wanted to.
Well, that's King Angwafo and myself, and this is a great image because this shows again the sort of cosmopolis that Lowell is. The gentleman standing next to me in the jacket right there with the little hood, that's Chirolo. He's from the well known in the Puerto Rican community from Lowell. So here we have, native born Llewellyn B. We have international visitors. We have the Puerto Rican community. And right behind us all is a little bust statue there of Patrick Mogan. And Dr. Mogan was famous, and you alluded to his philosophy of you cannot be just a consumer of your own culture. You cannot be a spectator of your own history.
We're going up to
you have to do it yourself. You have to do that. And so the Mogan Center encouraged a lot of community participation. So, well, this is great video.
Ethnic groups.
I don't remember all of what we were discussing here, but I do know that I remember he was very interested in looking
Originally, it
at
started out with
museum,
native English people.
the one side where we have
And that was
different
followed by the Irish, French
ethnicities
Canadians,
highlighted.
then Swedish,
What you are saying.
then Portuguese, Lithuanians, Armenians, Syrians,
Okay, yeah.
Polish, if I haven't mentioned that. And then most recently, we have a lot of African folks, as you know.
Cambodians.
Indians, Brazilians, India, a woman from Nigeria, a man from Ghana, a woman from Colombia, and a guy from Russia.
Refresh your memory.
Yeah, I do. That room that we were in, the second room that we went in, that's the Working People's exhibit at the National Park at the Mogan Center. And it highlights all the different ethnicities that embody the city. And you saw pictures there of Gordon Hom, who's a Ghanaian. Yeah. It shows George Chigas and his wife Tida, the first sort of, I think, Cambodian Caucasian marriage, I think, that happened in Lowell. So yeah, it's a great tribute to the diversity. And I know the king was very interested in that display, in those displays, because he was one that was very much invested in preserving his history. And I think, did you tell me that they, after he visited us, he opened up a Mencon museum?
Yeah, he had.
Yeah. So I remember he was very interested in how we do our exhibitry and display items. And you didn't see it there, but we have multimedia in that exhibit. And in fact, the National Park Service right now is working on very intently to renew that exhibit, because that exhibit is about, I think it's over 30 years old now. I think it opened maybe in 1989. So it's time for a refresh, and they are working on that. But to be able to share those stories and to hear the Mencon people stories was, again, another great opportunity at sharing of cultures.
Well, thank you very much. But one thing is, that I have learned from people like you and great people is that you have to be able to tell your story, and that is very, very different from the Africans. It's very, very sad that the African do not really tell their story. They allow, as an African, being in Africa, you would be very shocked that we don't sell ourselves. We just consume what Western media talks about us. And what you see there, and when you see they talk about the good part of Africa, the mainstream media does not do that. And I don't blame them, because you don't expect someone to come and tell your story. So, but working with you and giving us that opportunity to launch the African Festival, and also you were very, very involved with the Cameroonians of Lower, how we taught our children about the culture and their true identity, because as my father always said, that your identity, your culture is your identity. And if you lose your culture, if you shy away from your culture, then you are really a lost person. So, Dr. Ali, could you share your own, what was your personal, on this occasion that we are talking about the king, maybe you coming very close to him and working with the African, what memories do you have?
Well, aside of these discussions that we had at the national park, which were great, and it was so great to have this back and forth and sharing ideas and asking questions. And I think the most important thing that we all need to do is to realize that just because somebody comes from a different place doesn't mean they're that different. Yes, they might speak different languages, they eat different foods, they wear different dresses, they have different histories and cultures, traditions, but there's some key commonality with all of us. And the king was, so enjoying to see that there is complete diversity in the US, and he has been all around the world. But even to come to a relatively small place like Lowell and see it's not just Caucasians there. Like I said, joining us was a Puerto Rican community member, etc. We had some, I'm pretty sure I went to the City Hall presentation, which was very interesting. And again, Mayor Mercier and the other city councilors, I can't name them all from that period, but a great open-hearted welcome to somebody that they've never met before, that they don't owe. King Angwafo and his family cannot vote for them, right? But that isn't important. What's important is that building those bonds, and then even there is a sister city relationship between Lowell and Bamenda, spawned from these activities of the visit of the king. I do remember a very wild, and I mean that in a positive way, and fun, yet respectful party welcoming the king at St. Anne's Church Hall.
Yes,
and lots of lively dancing and music and tributes to the king. Wonderful food, great speeches. So I remember fondly of that. I have some photos somewhere of that event. And there was good coverage in the newspaper and other media outlets. WCAP, I believe, had some stories about the king's visit. So it shows the spirit of generosity from Lowell to welcome our international friends and celebrities and honorary members. So yeah, and to give King Angwafo honorary Lowell citizenship is again another indicator of how open-minded the folks are. The king, I don't remember everything the king and I discussed in our brief time together, but he also said we need to do more of these kinds of things, these bilateral meetings, this sharing of ourselves with others across the globe that you normally wouldn't be getting on a plane and going to Bamenda, right? So there's opportunity though to meet people from again across the planet and to discover we have so much in common. I think was a real, and the king is well traveled, of course, but again, that opportunity to meet with him, have those discussions was, those don't come around every day.
Oh, yes, thank you. I mean, mostly recently with the racial issues that are going on around the country, it's all about ignorance. And visits like this brings people to meet a traditional ruler from Africa that he's also cultured, humbled, and not only reading and getting a description from a distance. Visits like this should be encouraged so that, because sometimes what we get in the main media, it's not really realistic because you are looking at what someone wants you to see. You are looking through the tube. They have a message. They want you to look at it and reason like them. So, but this physical contact more should be encouraged because that's really what brings people together and share understanding and makes different people to respect each other for who they are and also try to understand their cultures. Because, the fear comes out of ignorance, and out of misinformation. By meeting the king right there, you loved with a different impression had you only read from someone who wrote about him. So I think
Yes.
so. On that note, I mean, I think that Lowell is doing such a wonderful job to be able to encourage the diversity and pull people from all across the globe together. As I always say that, we are very lucky that if you want to travel around the world in 7 days uh, and visit all the 7 continents, come and spend 7 days in Lowell. You would have met someone from Asia, from Australia, from Europe, from Africa, from South America, from North America, and tasted dish or seen someone who dresses funny and dresses different. Those are
Not
the
not
colors of the
not
world.
funny fruit, just different,
Who
unique.
dresses different. Yes, I thank you for that. So, I mean, the aspect of diversity that you foster very well and work diversity and inclusion here. So to really sum it up on this tribute, paying tribute to King Angwafo the third, who traveled across the Atlantic Ocean and built that bridge between Lowell and Bamenda, and not only Lowell and Bamenda, but Africa and the United States. So how, for your travels, what message do you say now to everyone to continue to push forward for that diversity, equality, and inclusion?
It, it, it's it's I want to say it's innately natural to congregate with people that are sort of very similar to you. I, I think if it wasn't innate, people would mix more, but they don't mix as much as I think is due, or even that they should. And I don't mean even if you just take away diversity, people that ride motorcycles hang around with people that ride motorcycles often,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So there's that kinship, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I also think it's great when people step out of their comfort zone and try to make connections with others, because as I said earlier, you quickly figure out you have way more in common from somebody that's, again, all across the far side of the planet than you may realize. We need to do more international travel, and I encourage people, when they do international travel, don't just go to the famous tourist places. Get off the beaten path and go see other things, and go talk to people that are not necessarily, sort of wired into the tourist economy, and you'll learn so much. And again, I'm always awed when people come to Lowell. People, we have tourists coming to Lowell for the folk festival, or to come to the national park, or whatever festival's going on, and they're from Japan, and they're from Germany, and everywhere else, and so exciting to see people wanting to learn about us, as we should absolutely learn about them.
Yeah, thank you. You brought up something about traveling when you are traveling internationally. One thing too that I would like to bring up is that even if you are traveling to visit other culture, it's also good to suppress your own ego and your culture, because one thing is, mostly the West, when they go to places like Africa, they tend to bring their culture and don't observe what they are getting into, and try to look, or I don't, how can I use it without being, look at it in a condescending way, but trying to bring their own culture in that area for the people there. A good example is African tradition is quite unique across Africa. I just returned from South Africa. It was a blessed trip. and I met this lady from Uganda. Uganda is on the east. It's in East Africa. I am from Central West Africa. So I bought something from this lady, and when she was handing it to me, Dr. Ali, this is what she did. You see, she supported her right hand with her left hand. As an African, she is speaking to me. That is I observe that, but I come from West Africa, and in my culture, we do the same thing. So I asked this elderly lady, why did you support your right hand with your left hand to hand me what I bought? She said it's a sign of respect and humility. I said, I come from Cameroon. That is the same thing that we do in my culture. She looked at me and said, my brother, and gave me a hug. But you see how she communicated with me? And if I did not observe that, some person may think that she's primitive, but she is being very humble and respectful and welcoming. So those are little things that if we travel, let us not equally take our own culture and try to shove it on other people's throat. What do you think?
Yeah, couple things come to mind. Obviously, and I don't think it's just the West. So I've done a lot of travels through Asia. And as China's economy has grown the last, 20, 30 years, there's a lot of Chinese tourism now, just like, people from the US or Europe or Japan have been sort of traveling as tourists for decades. The Chinese are really coming out, and it's sort of interesting to watch them. They come in buses, and you could substitute a busload of people from Milwaukee, but we're just talking about China, right? So they come and they go see some local attraction, but they are then whisked away to eat in a Chinese restaurant owned by a Chinese corporation, and everything. And instead of going to eat, say they're in Cambodia, they should go eat Cambodian food. You don't have that opportunity every day to go eat it, but instead they eat there. So it's in a way, it's sort of losing a great opportunity to know more. And the purpose you're getting, traveling is a pain in the what, right? So to get on a plane and wait and the lines and all that, if you're going to make all of that bother for yourself, go experience as much as you can that's different, right? To say, well, I don't like that, that's fine as well. It's like when you were 5 years old and your mother was trying to get you to eat something. Try it at least, and you will know, right? Whether it's again, eating or visiting people or experiencing a cultural presentation. When I've gone to Cambodia too, the other interesting thing is I'll meet a Cambodian person, and they find out I'm from the U.S. and they want to speak English with me. Me in turn, I want to practice my Cambodian. So I've had conversations where I'm speaking in Cambodian and the Cambodian person is speaking back to me in English, and I speak back in Cambodian. So yeah, the power of media, as you said earlier, to alter the cultures and change. And look, at cultures have been changing since human beings were walking the earth, and there's always been an exchange of ideas and foods and dress and what have you. Language, of course, is one of the hugest. But the power of the mass media can really have a negative effect on traditional cultures as everyone rushes to follow what's the most sexiest thing. and nothing in of itself entirely wrong with accepting, and incorporating cultures from elsewhere. But I also think you have to have a strong pulse to preserve what's original and unique to you. And that's where, I think organizations like the ones you've been involved with do a great job at especially teaching the younger generation who might have been born in Lowell of immigrant parents, whether the parents are from, Colombia or Laos or Cameroon or what have you, because young people should know that, and so that they can be fluent in a bicultural realm, and they can get off on a plane in Laos or wherever, Italy, Cameroon, and be able to talk and be able to understand things right away, and then share their Americanisms with the locals. So it's something that's hard to do, but there's a lot of great work out there on culture preservation, and it's something we should really support in a big way.
And it's also very, very good for the individual. We say the world is a global village. And for business people, it also enhances your own potentials to be able to fit in and understand. If you really want to evolve in business, you should do that. I will share.
Yeah, and that's very key, and the cultural sharing is key. And then bottom line, as periodically this always happens over the course of humanity, we end up in conflict. Well, if you know your neighbor a little bit and you understand maybe who they are and how they're thinking, maybe we go to conflict a little bit less. If we can, again, see those commonalities versus the differences. And, because when things are not going well in sort of the international relations realm, people and politicians are quick to point at the other, as Saeed wrote about.
I really want to take this moment to ask you, how is good old Alabama? I had a wonderful 1 week time with you. That was a very, very good time of my life. You took me around. We went to Selma. We visited the bridge and went everywhere. So let me tell the whole wide world that I thank you. I thank you. You are a brother, and you opened my eyes when you took me around in Alabama. And I remember we went to that botanic garden visit. So how is good old Alabama?
Alabama's doing great, and it's a little warmer than Lowell is this week. I know that. Yeah, the story of Alabama and Montgomery and Selma, there is fabulous history here. If you want to know about the civil rights movement, this is the town. We have Martin Luther King's Dexter Avenue Church, still a thriving, worshiping community. We have the Rosa Parks Museum. We have the Freedom Riders Bus Museum. We have a couple newer organizations. Equal Justice Initiative have set up the Legacy Memorial, the Legacy Museum. This is dedicated towards understanding issues about slavery and lynching and mass incarceration right up to the present day. There's another organization which I don't think we had a chance to visit called the More Up Campus, and this is also dedicated towards understanding the role of and what happened to women who were enslaved, especially in regards to medical experimentation, etc. So there is a wealth of wonderful attractions and offerings here that I'd encourage anyone come down. You can fly into Atlanta and you get in the car and be in Montgomery in 2 hours. They also have an airport here. You can fly right here. Selma, with the Selma to Montgomery March fame, is just 50 miles away, our ride. Again, very interesting narratives there that people will really open up their eyes. But I really think if you go to any corner of the planet, there is an interesting story. There are interesting peoples. There is fabulous history. So part of our responsibility as humans is to get to know each other, and the opportunity to have King Angwafo come and be able to meet somebody of royal personage and understand his way of thinking and his perceptions was remarkable and really a once in a lifetime opportunity. One of the first, I believe, the first monarch to visit Lowell was King Dom Pedro II, who was the emperor of Brazil, and he came to Lowell in 1876, and he was most interested in visiting the city to see the textile mills and learn about the manufacturing, with the idea that he was going to set up some of this industry in Brazil. So he came and toured the mills. He went all around the country. He went to Wall Street, New York, and San Francisco, and other places. But he made Lowell one of his stops. And then Prince Charles, the newly coronated King of United Kingdom, also came to Lowell in 1986 as the guest of Senator Tsongas and An Wang from Wang Computers.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see that now. Yeah.
You can see the king, right?
Yes.
Angwafo has spoken. That is the government. That's the Angwafo is the government of Mancon.
Okay.
Because that is the coronation of the new king.
Oh, wow. Who is King Angwafo shaking hands with in the office? Who is that?
This one?
Yeah.
That's Tim Murray.
Oh, the lieutenant governor?
Yes, that's at the State House.
Oh, wonderful.
So we are just about to wrap it up. I'd like to thank you for your time, and also thank you for the good words that you have spoken about the king during this time of celebration. I wouldn't say people are mourning. We are celebrating the history and also welcoming the present and the future, because the new king, King Angwafo IV, is already on the throne. Officially in Mancon, the celebration begins December 15th through January. So that will be a very, very wonderful time to be in Mancon. And I hope that someday when there is normalcy in Cameroon, you will go to the palace and actually meet the new king. And even if he comes here to Lowell, he will definitely meet you. In closing remarks, do you have anything to talk to the Mancon people, the Baminda people, and the Cameroonian and the Africans that you have one way or another met here in Lowell, or as you travel around the world?
Well, I do hope peace comes quick to the troubled corners of the world, including in Cameroon. And back to Patrick Morgan, I do want to encourage anyone to be thinking about, do not be a spectator of your own culture and history. So everyone has history, everyone has a connection to place and culture and traditions, and it's important not to lose those things. So I want to thank you for having me on today, Fru. And as they say in South Africa, when you say thank you, the response is pleasure, which is abbreviated for my pleasure. But I will say to you and everyone, Jeff.
On that note, I would say it also in the Mankon tongue that miyaka. Miyaka means thank you very much. And I thank your presence. And again, miyaka.
Everyone, pleasure.
In the life and the history of the police force of Lowell for one day teaching them that when a Cameroonian reaches into his socks, you should not shoot him because he is getting his wallet. And it sounds funny, but we all know it is not funny that there have been the killings of people in America when they reached simply for the identification, police were frightened and shot them. And I will always remember Kamola because Mr. Fukimbang has become a leader in the training of the police forces in all of northeastern United States, and even went recently to an international police convention in Washington with Chief Davis to talk to police chiefs from all around America. That's